Chapter 22. Somehow Sam made it to lunch. Not even remotely hungry, she sat down at the table she usually occupied and glanced around the cafeteria, half expecting anger to manifest himself and consume them all. He did not appear, but she knew he roamed there. Could someone who passed by her really be possessed by him? Sam hoped, no, she prayed she would never see him again, but his image forever burned in her mind. More beautiful than lust. Maybe he simply appealed to Sam more than lust. His skin shimmered like hot sand, the golden caramel of someone just returned from an extended Caribbean vacation. His hair looked like raven's feathers. Silky, flowing, soft waves blowing around from his face, framing his coal black eyes. Two endless, shimmering pools of darkness. His mouth an unnatural red, like pomegranates, framed his smile that didn't show razor-sharp teeth. Instead, two perfect rows of ice white, like the sweetest flesh inside the juiciest red apple. Maybe that's how the devil got Eve to eat the apple. His mouth looked absolutely delicious to taste. Sam became instantly angry with Adam because she knew that he had to have done something stupid to make Eve run off and eat the forbidden fruit. How could she have helped but eat it? That's how good Anger's mouth looked, and his chest. No Calvin Klein model could hold a candle to his sculpted pecs, and his abs, adoring his stomach, seemed fine until Sam noticed he had no lower body. Sam thought she remembered arms, but where legs should have been, they were tentacles. That's the only way Sam could think to describe the endless number of things that writhed around the lower half like snakes. Tentacles really didn't describe them either. Razors. Straight razors, like the things you see in old westerns where the barber sharpens the blade on a leather strap. Then the bad guy comes in and holds the edge to the cowboy's throat. And that's the way Sam felt. She felt the razor tentacles all around her, paralyzing her because if she moved, anger would slice her in half. Steve startled Sam when he sat down. "Where were you just now?" he asked. Sam had no response. "Just thinking about whether I feel like eating or not. I'm a little sick to my stomach." "Are you going to Natalie's today?" Steve questioned. Was he even concerned with her well-being? Sam grumpily thought. Is it Tuesday? Sam totally didn't even realize it was Tuesday. She hadn't discussed being grounded with her parents. She simply assumed house arrest applied until further notice. Ever since Natalie's accident and surgery, Sam and Steve went to Natalie's house every Tuesday to help her stay current with her schoolwork. Yes, it's Tuesday. Are you sure you only hurt your leg and don't have a brain bleed or something? Are you going to ask your dad or not? Steve gestured to her father, who stood on the west side of the cafeteria close to where the goth group lurked in the darkest corner. Fear gripped Sam like she had just jumped into a swimming pool on an icy November day. She couldn't ask her dad for permission to do anything. So much had happened to Sam within the last few days that she had managed to mentally push aside the entire Aubrey bonfire fiasco, but she knew she would be dealing with the consequences of her behavior for a very long time. "Samantha." Suddenly her father stood right in front of her. He briefly said something into his walkie-talkie like, "I'm on my way." Then he addressed Sam again. "Mrs. Ramsrud called me this morning. She said that Natalie was having a lot of trouble understanding her geometry, and she hoped you could come over this afternoon because you explained things a lot better than Steve." He glanced briefly in Steve's direction, and Steve nodded his head in a baffled agreement. "You can ride with Steve and to Natalie's after school. Your mother has a faculty meeting, so she'll come and pick you up as soon as she gets JT from daycare." And he walked away, barking something into his walkie-talkie as he went. "Yeah, that wasn't awkward much," Steve commented between bites of pizza. Sam didn't say anything. She did, however, wonder how Natalie managed to pull that off, getting her mother to call Sam's dad and how he agreed to let her go study. Everyone knew Steve was the math genius of their friend set, but at this point Sam didn't care. She got to be with her friends, even if it was for only a short period of time. But that thought was enough to get her through the rest of the day. Steve remained silent on their way to Natalie's, and that was okay with Sam. She wondered how much longer Natalie would be homebound, and as if Steve read her mind, or either he was tired of the awkward silence, he said, "Natalie may be coming back to school soon." "Soon? How soon is soon?" Sam questioned. "Well, it's been almost 5 weeks since the accident. Apparently the bone's healing well and the doctors were able to close the skin completely, finally. If that heals, then she can come back to school." The thought of Natalie being back at Mansfield High School made Sam feel better than she had in days. "Maybe that's why she got her mom in on the plot to get us to see you," Steve perceptively added. "Or maybe you just suck as a geometry tutor," Sam replied as they pulled into the Ramsarup driveway. Mrs. Ramsarup hugged Sam tightly and smoothed her bushy curls away from her face, then led her into the living room where Natalie sat on her usual couch perch, but with no pillows supporting her leg today. Natalie explained to Sam what the doctors had said about her leg. She didn't take off her huge immobilizer to show Sam her new scar because the protective padding was too thick to remove anyway. Sam felt the stitches in her own wounded leg burning and itching and pulling, but knew that her discomfort did not even come close to comparing with Natalie's. "Mom, can we have some lemonade?" Natalie questioned. "Of course, I'll go make some right away." And Miss Ramsarup merely walked off to the kitchen, presumably Natalie's motivation, and not a burning thirst for lemonade. "What were you thinking?" Natalie angrily barked at Sam. "What in the world happened? And you haven't even called me. I am really ticked." Natalie's eyes darkened. She glared at Sam, two endless shimmering pools of darkness. Sam saw her own reflection in them and felt the slice of the straight razor right across her heart. "If it makes you feel any better, she hasn't talked to me either, and I've seen her every day," Steve said as he gently lifted Natalie's leg and placed it in his lap as he sat next to her on the couch. For some reason, this very tender, trusting exchange between Natalie and Steve really flew all over Sam. There they sat, across from her, Natalie's leg gently cradled in Steve's lap, an obviously very familiar action. He even rubbed the tips of her toes that barely stuck out from her immobilizer. Sam jumped up from her chair and said a little too loudly, "Why don't you both tell me what I'm supposed to say so we can get this over with and I can go home?" She turned her back on both of them and relished the anger that boiled up from somewhere deep inside her. How dare them act like she hid some big secret when she knew the whole town had more details about her wild weekend with Aubrey than she did. Even if she told them the truth, they wouldn't believe her anyway. It wasn't like she engaged in some huge cover-up, not like the two of them all cuddled up on the Ramsarup couch playing footsie. "You know Aubrey is blaming it all on you, but I find her side of the story very hard to believe. I went to a lot of trouble to get you over here today, and I'm going to find out what happened." Natalie's tone did not soften. "What do you mean Aubrey's blaming me?" Sam's stunned expression softened her anger enough for her to turn and look at Natalie and Steve. "I thought it was really your idea. And that's why you've been acting so weird, Steve chimed in. What do you mean it was my idea? Sam barely got the words out. See, I told you, Natalie addressed Steve. Look at her face. I knew she didn't have a clue. Sit down, Sam, Natalie directed, and for once Sam did as she was told. Aubrey had not been at school since the weekend. Sam knew she had gotten out of the hospital after they determined she had no permanent damage, only a concussion and some cuts and bruises. Sam figured Aubrey could probably work a good week off just on the concussion sympathy. Besides, it was basketball season, and Aubrey hated cheering at basketball games, so Sam guessed she would finally show back up after she missed as many games as she could possibly get by with. Sam realized she didn't want to talk to Aubrey, and just how angry she really felt toward her. Aubrey told her mom and dad that going to the bonfire was all your idea. She said after her parents left, she was being the responsible teenage driving to the movie, and you begged her to please go to the party. Sam momentarily sat in stunned silence. Why would I do that? Sam said, and shrugged her shoulders because how could anyone believe that story? Besides, do I frequently hang out with the preps? And bonfires are totally my scene. Sam even chuckled when she said this aloud. The idea was so outlandish. A knowing look passed between Natalie and Steve. Steve gave a little head nod, indicating Natalie's cue to fill in the rest of the story. Brandon. One word. Only one word. Changed everything. The impossible just became reality. Aubrey Tennis found a loophole. Her get-out-of-jail-free card. Samantha Flynn, the girl in love, begging to have a chance to win her one and only, leading poor little Aubrey Tennis into a potentially fatal situation. Sam saw everything clearly except for the straight razors, slicing everything in the room. Tentacles reaching out of Sam, slashing everything in their path. Anger, his raven hair tossed back in the air, flowing from the wind of laughter that came from his juicy red